Hi there, Drumsensers out there. Here's another teaching tip from the Drumsense vaults. Actually, I thought I would address something that a few teachers have spoken to me about recently, which is teaching traditional grip. Now, apologies to any of you out there who teach traditional grip regularly or who play traditional grip most of the time. I think as teachers, we are more likely to be teaching matched grip because it's much easier for the students to learn. In fact, I would even strongly suggest that matched grip is the way to go, especially if you've got a beginner. However, a frequently asked question, and I've come across this myself, is you might get a student who's been playing drums already, who already plays traditional grip, and they might be asking you for some tips on how to improve their grip. Similarly, not similarly, but also you might get a student, a bit like myself, in my early 20s when I went to a teacher and said, can you show me traditional grip a bit better than I already understand it? And in fact, I have been asked this question over the years, by a drummer who's not necessarily worried about playing traditional grip as part of their living, but are just interested in getting to know it a bit more. So, finally, as teachers, it probably should be part of our sort of knowledge pack that we know how this grip works and how we might teach it. And how we might even play it. Now, the final thing that I'll say about traditional grip as far as I'm concerned is that although I don't play this way, I did learn a lot about how this technique works. I can play all my rudiments using traditional grip. And if pushed into a corner, I could probably play a gig using traditional grip, but I don't think I'd be entirely comfortable. So if it was a rock gig, if it was a light jazz gig, I'd probably get away with it. So first of all, again, apologies to any of you who do this frequently, but I know there's a lot of teachers for whom this grip is a mystery. So I know this video is going out to a lot of teachers. So let's just look at it from how we would set about showing somebody how to do this from the starting point. I think a lot of teachers I've seen do this. So there's your hand. You put the stick in between the thumb and the forefinger. The basic rule is 2 fingers under, 2 fingers over. Okay. Now you can see there I've got index and middle finger over the top of the stick, ring and little finger underneath the stick. If I grip the stick like that, okay, I can make a stroke. So I'm not giving any leeway to that grip at all. So I'm literally twisting my forearm. You can see my elbows coming in as a sort of a default, but I can make a downward stroke. I can even bring the stick back up. Okay, so this is like a full stroke, but using the traditional grip. But at this point, I'm not using any fingers at all. That's staying quite tight. Now, there are lots of kind of variations and arguments about how this grip works best. From what I understand, I've got the stick pretty much there. Now, actually, I kind of missed this out. This is quite a good thing to get going with a student or another teacher. Just there. Get the stick in that gap and see if you can get it to respond for you. Now, that's tremendously liberating. I can even get quite fast with it. But see how far the stick is coming back. So it's literally just that, and I'm letting the stick bounce back. So one theory is that then you just introduce the fingers, and it kind of changes the situation. So having got the student to understand how that's going to work, you could then say, okay, now let's get the fingers round. You've got 2 fingers under, 2 fingers over, and it's now a stroke. Because you can't really control that, you'd be hard pushed to play a slow slow strokes like that. You certainly wouldn't want to play a backbeat like that. So we need to get the fingers over. Now, to go back to where I was a minute ago, I'm now not using any fingers. I'm literally just here. So what happens? I can get the stick that high. With the match grip, of course, I can get the stick that high without using the fingers. I can actually point to the ceiling. If I let my fingers relax, I can get the stick back to here. Okay? You can see that? Okay. But with this, in order to get the stick back further, I've got to pretty much let it go. Okay? So it'll now go to here. Now, I've known teachers do this, and I think Joe Morello used to do this. You see the angle of this hand, this stick is now pointing to the ceiling, but I've still got my fingers around it. So there, so we're there. So that's kind of like the full stroke. So we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4. But I tell you what, it's uncomfortable, you know. I think if you're playing a full stroke, you probably let the stick just relax a bit in your fingers, and you can, a bit of freedom there, especially if you start going. Okay, so it's there that I'm kind of controlling the stick. Okay. All the time I'm doing this, I'm finding there's tension here, whereas if I do that, there's no tension anywhere in my arm. So the argument for traditional grip starts to kind of fall apart almost at the beginning. However, if we start looking into controlling it a bit more, with a bit more relaxation, what I'm doing now is I'm starting to free these fingers up, and the thumb is helping me a bit, like that. So, next thing, you know, as a little, actually a little margin note here, I do find that if I get a student who has been playing traditional grip, and they want, and you know, they don't really do this. They've been playing this way all their lives, and they're not very good at it. They've kind of misinterpreted it. I find it extremely difficult to get them to backtrack and start again. Similarly, if I get someone who just wants to learn this, just out of interest, and they don't get it comfortable almost straight away, I personally find it really hard to progress them any further. So good luck with this. But anyway, if we've got, let's say we're okay. So we've got the stroke going, we've got the hand quite relaxed. Okay. Another tip I've heard is to use a doorknob technique. So I'm twisting the wrist here as though I was turning a doorknob. Now let's go to there. Let's get the fingers round and let's twist the wrist. Of course, it stops when you hit the pad, but essentially I'm doing that. So you can. Okay. The roll of the fingers. Now, I think to get this right, I think you have to be pretty precise. Most people I've spoken to agree that this knuckle on the ring finger is the resting place for the stick. And then arguably, again, I'm going with the majority here, and this is what's most comfortable for me, the middle finger doesn't actually do very much. It's this finger, the index finger, that ends up coming to our rescue. So I've even seen drummers like almost not use the middle finger at all. So you can see here I'm even pointing it away from the stick. I guess you could even argue that if I lost that finger, I'd still be able to use traditional grip. So it's this finger now that's kind of... Now to illustrate that, I'll just use that finger. Okay? So I'm now not using the resting place at all on the ring finger. I'm just using that. If I put the ring finger back in, I have the same idea as this. Which brings me to another stroke. There. With this stroke, I'm curling there's my freedom, so I've got the stick to come into here. But when I close the stroke down, it's this finger, the index finger, that's coming across the top and squeezing the stick onto the ring finger. Like so. again, there's always there. Okay, now the other technique associated with well, so I'll start that again. The other technique, of course, is to get the stick away from the pad. Okay, so I've got that, and I've got that. So that's with a relaxed index finger, and then I close the stroke down with the index finger there. How to play a double stroke. There's one idea. Okay, so what I'm doing is there's the bounce, but I can arrest the stick with the index finger, the same as you would there. There's the bounce. You stop it bouncing by giving the stick a squeeze, which is what I'm doing. Again, the middle finger is not really contributing to this, but I need the stick to be on the middle knuckle of the ring finger in order for the stick to stop moving. So similarly, there's my finger technique, and I stop it. Like. You can tell from the difference in weight and just the feel of those strokes. They sound different. You can hear how much more practiced I am with that technique as opposed to that technique. Doubles. Which is one reason that I don't really think traditional grip is helping us anymore. I think it's just it's too difficult to do for a start, and secondly, it's not really designed for flat surfaces. It's designed for slanting surfaces, like marching drums. So when we play the drum set, we get into difficulty like playing the middle tom, playing the crash cymbal even. It's much easier to go like that than it is to go like that. I find even playing the floor tom, I come round to here, I have to sort of twist my body round. Whereas there, I think it's easier. But certainly, there is no kind of reason for traditional grip to be used on flat surfaces. So, you could argue, and I sometimes do, that traditional grip has really had its day, and there's not much point in even going on with it. But the reality is, and I'm included in this, you will meet drummers who are interested in learning how to do it. So let's recap. We're there, we're here, 2 fingers over, 2 fingers under, so now we're here. Now we can relax the middle finger, start using the index finger a bit more to control the stick, even to the extent of using the index finger for techniques like this, just the bounce. You can also use the thumb for that. Just finger and thumb, which I'm not all that good at, but you can. Also for the molar technique, there's the downstroke, tap stroke, up stroke. Some drummers pull that stick in like that and whip it round. Down, tap, up, down, tap, up, down, tap, up. To get it faster, you can see there's that little motion there, but there's my whip. And if I use the finger a bit more, you see, I'm pretty amateur at this, really. It doesn't go too fast for me. But drummers like Joe Morello, Buddy Rich, even lots of drummers could get this going very, very quickly. Jojo Meyer does it today. Peter Erskine does it today. So. Just going back to the double stroke, there's the double stroke, so which means you now have access to a double stroke roll. And you can play your rudiments. There's a 5-stroke roll. And all those rudiments become available to you. The paradiddle, you can see the upstroke, buzz stroke, again, is controlled by the index finger. Now, here's an interesting tip. I had a very enlightening lesson from an American drummer called Alan Herman, who some of you may have heard of, a bit of a Broadway legend in his day. And he suggested that, in fact, sometimes you can dispense with the thumb. This is very interesting because I haven't had a drum lesson on this technique for a very long time. Even hanging out with Jim Chapin, I didn't learn much. I didn't already know about how this technique works. So it's quite interesting to talk to Alan Herman and him saying, you know, there's a buzz stroke, for example. Now you see I'm not actually doing anything with the thumb. It's actually just here. Take the thumb away. I'm just there. Now he said, you know, you can even play double strokes like that. So although you can see the thumb, take my word for it, I'm not here. I'm actually more like, it's hard to do with the thumb, like there. So playing double strokes. Whoops. Okay. It's quite, the word is that sprung to mind is liberating. It's quite liberating to almost let go of the stick. It's sort of the equivalent of using open fulcrum here and letting the stick kind of just completely breathe in your hand, and there's the equivalent of doing it there. Now, I haven't spent weeks and months practicing this, so I find that when I do it, the stick starts to slide out of my hand a little bit. But with a bit of practice, I'm sure I could get it right. Okay, so I hope that's helpful. Some of you may be thinking of just brushing up on your traditional grip, even if you're not thinking of ever teaching it. But hopefully it will solve some problems for you if anyone does come along and they're playing traditional grip and you don't think their traditional grip is helping them. I see a lot of this, no fingers at all, honestly, weird but true. I see a lot of guys holding their sticks too long. And also, this is something I see quite a bit of. So there's no real definition of where the fingers are going. It's better if you know where to start with this. So there, then we could be here, and then we could be there, even here, and then Alan Herman style. There. Okay. I hope that's helpful to you. See you next time.